Hello everyone, this is teacher Suzie and welcome again to my channel. In this video, I am going to discuss how to get the sum and the product of the roots of a quadratic equation without actually solving or knowing the roots of a quadratic equation. And we will also identify the given quadratic equation given its sum and product. So let us start. So we have to remember na ang sum of the roots. Na ang sum ng roots ng quadratic equation represented by R1 plus R2. Root number 1 plus root number 2. This is sum, kaya plus. So ito ang magre-represent ng sum ng roots. So the formula to get the sum of the roots is negative b over a. So again, for us to be able to identify the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation na hindi na natin kailangan isolve ang roots is negative b over a. So the sum will be represented by R1 plus R2, root number 1 plus root number 2. And for the product of the roots, so ano naman ang formula for us to be able to get the product of the roots of a quadratic equation. So, nire-represent siya ng R1 or root number 1 times root number 2. R1, R2. Okay? And the formula that we will use to get the product of the roots is C over A or C divided by A. So, here in this lesson, for us to be able to identify the sum and the product of the roots, kailangan malaman muna natin ang values ng A, B, and C. So, dapat nakasulat sa standard form ang ating quadratic equation. So, let us have examples. So, if we are asked to get the sum and the product of the roots of number 1, let's have x squared plus 5x plus 4 equals 0. So, we will use the formulas that we have given a while ago. So again, we have to check kung yung ating quadratic equation ay nakasulat sa standard form. Yes, in this given, nakasulat na siya sa standard form in ax squared. So unang nakasulat ang x squared, followed by bx or yung term na may x, plus c or just the constant is equal to 0. So naka-standard form na siya. Let us identify a, b, and c. So, a here is 1, the coefficient of x squared. B is the coefficient of x, which is 5. And c is 4. Now, let us first solve for the sum. Again, the sum is R1 plus R2. And the formula is negative b over a. Let us substitute the values. So, the sum, R1 plus R2, is negative b. B is 5 divided by a, which is 1. So, the sum of the roots of our given quadratic equation is negative 5 divided by 1, which is equal to negative 5. So, the sum of the roots of x squared plus 5x plus 4 equals 0 is negative 5. So, we do not know, hindi natin alam kung ano yung roots na yun. Pero pag inad natin yung mga roots na yun ng quadratic equation na ito, ang sum ay negative 5. Now, let us have the product. So, the product R1 times R2 or R1, R2 is defined by the formula C divided by A. So, let us substitute the values. C is 4 divided by A, which is 1. So, the product of the roots is 4 divided by 1, which is equal to 4. So, ang ibig sabihin, yung mga roots daw ng quadratic equation na ito, pag minultiply natin, because we're talking about product, the answer will be 4. So, ayan po ang mas madaling paraan to identify the the sum and the product of the roots without solving for the roots. Let's have another example. Let's say we have 2x squared minus 9x plus 10 equals 0. So again, this quadratic equation is already written in standard form. So pwede na natin i-identify ang A, B, and C. A here is 2, B is negative 9, and C is the constant 10. Let us solve for the sum. So again, sum is R1 plus R2, defined by the formula negative B over A. So that is equal to sum root number 1 plus root number 2 is negative. Ang B natin ay negative 9. So negative from the formula times B, which is negative 9. So negative times negative 9 divided by A, which is 2. So therefore, the sum of the roots of our given quadratic equation is negative times negative 9. That will become positive 9 over 2. Since pag atin pa tong simplify, the answer is a mixed fraction. Okay na po ito. So the sum of the roots of our given quadratic equation is 9/2. Let us have the product of the roots. Root number 1 times root number 2 again is defined by C divided by A. So root number 1 times root number 2 is C, which is 10, divided by A, which is 2. Now, root number 1 times root number 2 is 10 divided by 2. That is equal to 5. So, kapag in-add daw natin ang roots ng 2x squared minus 9x plus 10 equals 0, ang sum is 9/2. At pag minultiply naman natin, the product will be 5. Okay? So, ganito lang po kadali. We just need to remember the formula. And kailangan natin dito yung skill natin on how to write the quadratic equation in standard form, identify A, B, and C, substitute the values of A, B, and C to the formula, and ayun, madali na natin makukuha ang sum and product ng roots. Ngayon naman, given naman yung sum and product ng roots, how can we identify the quadratic equation? Okay? So for us to do that, we need to remember the formula. Okay? So again, 'di ba, ang quadratic equation natin, ang standard form niya ay ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And for us to be able to identify the quadratic equation given the sum and the product, so we will just expand b and c. Alright? So again, ang formula natin for the sum is negative b over a. Diba po? And that's represented by r1 root 1 plus root number 2. So, to get the quadratic equation given the sum and the product of the roots, the formula that we will use is ax squared plus. Okay? So, we will replace sa b ang sum. Root number 1 plus root number 2x. So, kung ano yung sum, dito natin ilalagay, magiging coefficient siya ng x. And, by the way, this is minus. Erase na lang natin. So, that is minus. Okay, nagkamali tayo ng nasulat. Alright, so minus. Okay, minus the sum R1 plus R2x plus C, ang nirepresent ng C ay product. So, R1, R2, R1 times R2 equals 0. So, ito yung ating formula na gagamitin to identify the quadratic equation given the sum and the product. Let us have an example. Let's say the sum, or R1 plus R2, the sum of the roots of a quadratic equation is 4. And the product, R1, so we have R1 times R2, is 3. So, what quadratic equation has the sum of the roots 4 and the product of the roots 3? So again, as I said a while ago, we will be using this formula. So we have ax squared minus the sum r1 plus r2 x plus the product r1 times r2 equals 0. So substitute the sum and the product. So we're going to have ax squared minus the sum. Ano ba ang sum? That is 4. So we will put here 4 and then x, 4x plus r1 times r2, the product, that is 3, plus 3, and then copy equals 0. Again, we will copy ax squared minus the sum, r1 plus r2, that is 4x, plus the product, r1 times r2, that is 3, equals 0. That's simple. So it means that, oh, by the way, I forgot to remove a here. Let's just remove a. That's equal to 1. Remove a. Okay. Ayan. Okay. So, therefore, this is the given quadratic equation. Wait lang, naka-eraser pa. So, this is the given quadratic equation whose sum of the roots is 4 and product of the roots, which is 3. Okay? Now, let us have another example. Let's say we have the sum r1 plus r2, which is negative 1/3. And then the product r1, r2, r1 times r2, which is negative 3/4. So, by the way, yung a natin, tinanggal natin, that's 1. 1 na lang yan. Kasi, ang denominator ng ating sum and product is 1. Okay? So, hindi maapektuhan yung a. It's still equal to 1. So, dito, makikita natin na ang ating a is not equal to 1. It can be greater than or less than 1. So, tingnan natin kung ano magiging result. Kasi, meron tayong denominators for the sum and the product. Okay? So, let's do again the same procedure we did a while ago. We will be using the formula. So, ax squared minus the sum r1 plus r2 x plus the product r1 times r2 equals 0. So, we are going to have here, so tanggalin muna natin yung a para hindi tayo malito na maraming variables na overlook natin siya kanina. So, x squared minus, ano ba ang sum? Itong sum natin, 1/3. Negative times negative 1/3, so positive na siya. Plus 1/3 x from the formula plus the product. The product is negative 3/4. So, instead of putting plus here, because positive times negative 3/4 is negative pa rin, diba? So, minus na tayo. Minus 3/4 equals 0. We will take its sign. Ngayon, for us to get rid of rational terms, we will multiply the whole equation with the LCD para matanggal itong denominators ng b natin tsaka c. So, kailangan natin malaman ng LCD. So, kung titignan natin, this is already prime. Multiply natin 3 times 4. Okay? And ang factors, prime factors ng 4 ay 2 and 2. So, walang common factor with 3. So, therefore, 3 times 4, 12 ang LCD. And we will multiply the whole equation with the LCD, which is 12. So, multiply each terms. 12 times x squared, that is 12x squared, plus 12 times 1/3 x. So, we will just cancel 12 and 3. So, divide natin si 12 sa 3, that is 4. Okay? Or, sige, direct natin. 12 times 1/3, that is 12/3. 12 divided by 3 is 4 times x, 4x. And then, 12 times negative 3/4. So, cancel na yung 4 eh. And 12, both divisible by 4. 4 will become 1, 12 will become 3. Times negative 3 is negative 9. Then, copy equals 0. Or kung gusto ninyo, ayaw mag-cancel, direct na. 12 times negative 3 is negative 36. Negative 36 times 4 is negative 9. So, wala na tayong rational term. So, this is now the quadratic equation given the sum of 1/3 and the product of negative 3/4 of the roots. Ayan. So, that will be all for today. I hope that you learned from this lesson. So, see you again on my next video. Goodbye.